بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم والصلاة والسلام على رسول الله وعلى آله وصحبه ومن والاه. We'll continue inshallah شرح زاد المستقنع, and we are at the book of Al-Buyu'. We started the book, alhamdulillah, and I believe we went through the meaning of the bay', and we came to we talked about al-ijab wal-qabulu, and some of the aspect and element related to al-aqd wal-ijab wal-qabul. قال وينعقد بإيجاب وقبول بعده وقبله ومتراخيا عنه في مجلسه فإن اشتغل بما يقطعه بطل وهي الصيغة القولية وبمعاطاة وهي الفعلية. We said like there's is either it can be like a contract with done with the صيغة القولية. الصيغة القولية, like, by saying, someone is saying, I selling you this item, and the other person said, I buy it from you with this, with the price that is being offered or, agreed upon. And then al-mu'atat, we said it can be fi'liya, just by action. Someone is say how much this item, we said like this is, for example, $10. He just give him $10. We are saying I'm buying this for the $10. So al-mu'atat is the action itself is enough in fulfilling and concluding the contract. Then he started in a-shurut. A-shurutu are the condition. A-shurutu are the condition. قال والشروط هي التي تضبط ما كانت شرطا فيه وإلا صارت المسألة تكون فوضى. I mean, it's going to be, if we don't fulfill the condition for the contract, then everything will be kind of chaotic and not be structured and organized. So the shurut, it's like the meaning of the shurut as we have studied in the usul, that the shart required to be fulfilled for the asl or for the hukum to exist, for the hukum to exist. Then قال وهذه شروط, and then you'll find in the bay' there shurut, in al-ijara there shurut, renting, leasing, endowment, mortgage, all of that they have a shurut. And the shurut, it helped to have the contract fully, concluded in a way preserving the right of the parties taking part of the contract. And without the shart, then the contract itself will be void and rejected. قال وهذه الشروط التي يذكرها العلماء أو الأركان الواجبات ادعى بعض الناس أنها لا تجوز. But this is, things like the shurut actually are known in the Sharia, like the shart that we have for the salah, the wudu is the key. So also for al-buyu' and this thing, it have shurut. And the shurut, as we're going to mention, the shurut he started قال ويشترط التراضي منهما ويشترط التراضي منهما. So this is the first shart. This is the first shart, and the first shart is at-taradi. So both of them, they need to agree and be pleased with the fulfillment and the concluded of the contract. So both the seller and the buyer, they are pleased with the transaction. When we say pleased, everyone is agreeing, no one is forced. Because if one of them is forced, then the contract is rejected. فيقول سبحانه وتعالى في سورة النساء يا أيها الذين آمنوا لا تأكلوا أموالكم بينكم بالباطل إلا أن تكون تجارة عن تراض منكم. Or you will believe, do not devour each other wealth and money with falsehood. Don't take the money from others with falsehood. Illa, so the exception that you can take one's wealth when you do a transaction, and this transaction must be based on agreement. On agreement. قال عن تراض منكم عن تراض منكم. So this is as a dalil and evidence from the Quran that the التراضي one of the condition. قال تجارة عن تراض أي صادرة عن تراض منكم. Both parties they agree of the transaction. In the Sunnah of the Prophet ﷺ, a hadith, the evidence from the Sunnah, قال إنما البيع عن تراض. Only transaction. The transaction can only happen through agreement, mutual agreement. So he is going to elaborate on this condition. He's going to elaborate on this condition. قال فلا يصح من مكره بلا حق. فلا يصح من مكره بلا حق. So the contract will not be لا يصح, it should not be valid من مكره, from someone who's been forced, I mean against his will, without right. So here the author was very specific and actually, profound in his terms when he said mukrah bila haqq, which is mean someone might be forced. If this forcing him or going against his will, it's right. So mukrah bila haqq. So we have two aspects here that will invalidate the contract. So لا يصح البيع من مكره بلا حق. It's not, the contract is not valid, is void when it's done from someone, the seller is selling, against his will and with no right. So specific with no right, because it might be someone against his will, but there is right. Example, someone with has authority, has power, someone who's has power, but he's a transgressor. He's someone who's a transgressor. He will force someone to sell, for example, a piece of property because he like it, and the person, he does not want to sell it. So forcing him to sell such a thing, whoever who will own it afterward, his own ownership, it's not founded. Why? Because the contract on which the transaction is based is non-valid. فالبيع لا يصح. فthis is mean فلا يصح من مكره بلا حق. فلا يصح من مكره بلا حق. Also, when he said mukrahin bila haq, the author, as I have said, that if someone is forced to sell something against his will, but there is right. When we say there's right, there is maslaha, there's a justification. Therefore, the transaction is valid. For example, someone get a loan and he gave his house as a mortgage for that loan. And at the due date, the person cannot sell or does not have enough, cannot pay back his debt. So in this case, the person who has the loan, he wants back his money. And that person cannot honor the debt. And the loan was used to buy that house, but the person failed to give him back the loan. In this case, that person will be forced to sell the house to give back the money to the person. So this is against his will, but a with justification. Why? Because to give back the money to the first one who already financed that house or gave him the house. Uh, um, there is, of course, there is always, the cases need to be treated against. I mean, depends, or like based on their circumstances. It might be someone who had given the loan and he asked him back his loan. The loan was not given to finance, for example, a house or to finance something, but the person, he said, forcing the person to sell the house to give back the loan, that's not justified. But he will force him to get the money, and if that person go to borrow the money to give it back, that's fine. But if the owner of the money, he force the person to say, no, I want in exchange the house, that's forcing. But if the person, he does not find any way except to sell the house to give back the loan, that's also justified, because that was, not against his will, but he didn't have the choice to do it. So this is the meaning, as we said, فَلَا يَصِحُّ مِن مُكْرَهٍ بِلَا حَقٍ. فَلَا يَصِحُّ مِن مُكْرَهٍ بِلَا حَقٍ. Then قال وأن يكون العاقد جائز التصرف. So this is the second condition. The second condition, أن يكون العاقد جائز التصرف. أن يكون, here قال ويشترط التراضي منهما فلا يصح من مكره بلا حق. So the contract is not valid from someone forced to sell against his will and with no right, with no justification, as we give the example. وأن يكون العاقد جائز التصرف. وأن يكون العاقد, he's the one who going to sign the contract. جائز التصرف, he had the permission and the ability and the capacity to manage this contract, to have the ability and the capacity to sign. Okay, so this will lead to the one who going to do the transaction, is he capable or has the full capacity to do it? When I say capacity, we're talking about al-ahliyatu, which is yes, I mean it means the capacity. Is he allowed to do it? Eligible? Does he has the eligibility to do the transaction? The one who will have the capacity to fulfill the condition of transact or a transaction, to manage the transaction, to be first someone who has the age of puberty, sane, and Rashid. So it's not the mental capacity, the full mental capacity is a requirement, but he has to be also Rashid. What does mean Rashid? Someone who has also the ability and the skills of management. We're talking skills of management, not to skills, to manage a corporate, but that he knows, to take a decision in a money. He's not someone wasteful, or someone, who can be tricked, or someone who can, divert him to put his money in something that is going to lose. Someone who knows, so he has the skills to say, no, this is not good deal, to appreciate, to evaluate the transaction. And because there's a hadith of the Prophet ﷺ, there's a family who always have one of their people who go to the market and he make transaction, but he has kind of kind of a lack in his mental capacity, kind of, he's not fully insane, but he's kind of, not, he does not have the full mental capacity. So when he goes to the market and people, they do transaction with him, this is in time of the Prophet, they might sell him things, anything. When they sell him anything, he looks at thing he will not need, but he like it, and people, they sell it to him. But the problem, if they sell it with his own agreement, they don't have, they are not obligated to return it. So when he take it home, so his people, his family say, what are you going to do with this? This does not cost anything. You don't need this. Go return it. So when he go to return it, nobody will accept it because the deal is done. So then his family, they complain to the Prophet ﷺ. By complaining to the Prophet, and the Prophet knows his case, he told them, every time you make a deal, say la khalab, no cheating. And no cheating, which is mean like, if I find out, because I don't have the full mental capacity, if I find out that this is not beneficial to me, I have the right to return it. So before he get the thing, say la khalaba, so the buyer said la khalab, which is mean I accept to return it if you change your mind, or if you find out that there's something that it does not go with your need. Okay, so here that's the rushd that we're talking about. That's the rushd, as Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala also said in Surah An-Nisa, قال فإن آنستم منهم رشدا وابتلوا اليتامى حتى إذا بلغوا النكاح, and test the orphan, those that people they manage, and they save the money of orphans, and they have to give them back their money when they reach the age of puberty. That age, we call it also the age of nikah. So he will be at the age to start, start and found a household. قال حتى إذا بلغوا النكاح. But at that age, so they have the age of puberty, but another test, which is, as he said, قال فإن آنستم منهم رشدا. See, so al-inasu is like to test, to see in them, kind of that sense of responsibility, sense of, fulfilling tasks, sense of purpose. And that's the rushd. That's the rushd. People, when they go to buy something, they know what to buy. They will not buy, for example, a shirt for like $10,000. That does not make sense. So this person, whoever who does this, he's like, he has a problem in management. He will not, for example, enter to a restaurant and he want to pay everyone in the restaurant. He want to pay for his lunch, for example, and he will do it often. There's a problem here. So someone who's not like managing his money, especially we're not talking about people who are generous, but someone who has a very limited income, he will not be doing that. If he's doing that, so he does not have rushd. Just throw an example to help to understand the meaning of the rushd. قال وأن, that's why here قال yeah, that's the meaning of جائز التصرف. فجائز التصرف أن يكون بالغا عاقلا رشيدا. بالغا عاقلا, so بالغ, have the puberty, عاقلا, someone who's sane. Rashidan is what I have explained, have those capacity to decide to do transaction with their common sense. Add to it hurran, which is that in the generation that where the book was written, hurran, it means free. So he's not under a servitude and anything, and this is just to report what we have in the book of the fiqh, as in that generation or society, servitude still existing. طيب. قال فلا يصح تصرف صبي وسفيه بغير إذن ولي. You see, now here he's going to give more details. قال فلا يصح So who going to exclude from those who are able to conclude the contract? قال only someone who has the capacity to do it. Then given elaborating on that قال فلا يصح, here I read it here, فلا يصح منه وأن يكون العاقد جائز التصرف فلا يصح تصرف صبي وسفيه بغير إذن ولي. فلا يصح, so it's not allowed for a child and سفيه, we're going to explain what is سفيه, to do the transaction or to conclude the contract, to sign a contract without the permission of his wali, his guardian. Even, some of the children, even when they get, talking less than age, the age of puberty, as we have mentioned and agreed upon among the scholar, to normalize it to be at one age, which is 15 years old. So even if the person is 14 years old and skilled and he know how to manage money, still it require the authorization of his guardian if he's going to sign a contract or do a deal. So this third, al-aqil, al-rabi', Rashid, as we have mentioned. As-safihu is the one who has a problem in his mental capacity. And when you say mental capacity, it's like management capacity. Management capacity. So, for example, which is you can put in the same, category the sabi, the child, and some old people who come to an age that they don't really have the capacity to decide, and someone also who's getting into a lot of waste and he's not able to manage money. There's people that cannot manage money. They call them safi, so those are forbidden for them. Not forbidden, whatever contract they sign is non-valid. Al-waliyu, and for this category of people, they have a wali. Al-wali, he the one who will be managing their property, their wealth, their money. Now, when we read again what the author said, قال وأنت فلا يصح تصرف صبي وسفيه بغير إذن ولي. So it's not allowed for a child or a safi to manage, his money without the permission of the wali. Which is mean also we can understand with the permission of the wali he can fulfill the transaction. So how this, how can this happening? For example, to preserve, because the wali, he had the responsibility of managing and safeguarding the property and the wealth of the people who they are not able to manage them or manage it on their own. And that responsibility is accountable. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala قال ولا تأكلوها إسرافا أو بدارا حتى يكبر. And don't eat it, don't waste it till they come to the age of maturity, so you can give them back their money. This is in certainly saying the way how to manage the orphan wealth. So here, in the author saying they cannot do it or any transaction without the permission. So if he give them the permission, will they be able to do it? Because the problem here is the management, and the wali is accountable on the management, because it might be when the for example the child grows and and reach the age of maturity, he will say back to his wali, who used to manage his money, said, why did you do this for my money? Why did you invest in this? What you do, so he will be call him accountable before if he did it wrongly, because this is a trust, and the trust is accountable before Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So the image, to refer to what the author said, is, for example, the wali will give to the child money. Told them, take this and go buy whatever you want. And this is here, he's, subhanAllah, he's balancing, and he's like being, managing in the best of the ability the wealth, because when he gave him, for example, okay, this is $10, go get whatever. So $10 is not going to hurt the whole wealth, but it gives that opportunity to the child to buy whatever he wants. And the same for a safih, if you give him some part of money, or if he want to buy a specific thing, he'll give him the money and say, go buy it, go buy it. So he give you the exact money to buy it, and that's how the permission to the child or to the safi will be given. So which is come as a conclusion that the permission of the wali for this category of person who are not able to manage their own wealth, to have always in mind and to be regarding the most important thing, which is al-maslaha للطفل أو للسفيه المصلحة. So it's always to regard the benefit and how to protect the wealth of those who are managing for them their wealth. طيب. Now قال وأن تكون العين مباحة النفع وأن تكون العين مباحة النفع من خير حاجة من غير حاجة. طيب. Now the shart, look, we said who is able to do the transaction, that's one shart, and how the transaction need to be done, that's the second shart. So the first one, he said how the transaction will be accepted, how should be done. We said by taradi, by mutual agreement. So that's, if anyone who's doing gonna be forced or against his will, that is rejected, except as we mentioned. The second, who will be able to do it, someone who had the full capacity to do it. So that's the second condition, and excluding the sabi, the safih, and whoever who cannot do it. Then if there is such people involved in transaction, then the wali, he has to have get his permission to fulfill it. Now get to the item or to the object that the transaction, the object of the transaction itself. Okay, so the way of the transaction, that's one. Second, the author of the transactions, authors both, that's two. The third is the object of the transaction. So here for the object قال وأن تكون العين مباحة النفع من غير حاجة, and then he's gonna give us example. العين, which is the object of the transaction, whatever they're going to be doing the deal upon, it need to have mubahatul ayn. What it means? So it need to be halal. Mubahatul ayn, al-ayn is the object itself that they are exchanging or buying or selling. It need to be mubah. Mubah, it means permissible by the sharia to be used. That's mubah. Mubahatul ayn. من غير حاجة. مباحة العين من غير حاجة. مباحة العين من غير حاجة. الحاجة, it might be مباحة, or it's the selling of the object, it's not allowed, but it is permissible to use it. We're going to give an example here. So here he's saying in الشرح قال أن تكون العين مباحة النفع من غير حاجة، أي أن تكون العين التي وقع العقد عليها بالشراء مباحة النفع بغير حاجة، وهذه تقتضي 3 شروط. What it means مباحة العين بغير حاجة is permissible to use it without a need. When I said بغير حاجة, it means that it's not permissible to buy it or to sell it. Not permissible to sell it, but it's permissible to use it. We'll go into example. So here give us 3 conditions, in this particular condition, or like sub-condition. قال الأول أن يكون فيها نفع. So whatever someone is going to buy has to have نفع. Is going to provide, benefit. Is going to provide the person, نفع. He's going to use it. Something beneficial that he's going to get out of the thing that he's going to buy. Second, أن يكون النفع مباحا. Whatever he's going to use from the object he's buying, or the transaction, the object of the transaction, it need to be permissible. The third, أن تكون الإباحة بلا حاجة. أن تكون الإباحة بلا حاجة. So الإباحة بلا حاجة is like there is no restriction in the use of the object. There's no restriction. We're going to, with an example further, inshallah, is going to be explained. So, for example, there are things are not permissible, but you can only use them for a particular thing. That's mean mubah lihaja. But we need the transaction need to be done on object that mubah bila haja. There's no restriction in it. We take the example of intoxicant, khamr, alcohol, wine, for example. This one is an item that is sold. Al-aynu, the object itself, it's not permissible to use, to consume. So this one, the contract or the transaction is not allowed. Why? Because the item itself, the object itself, إنه غير مباح العين. العين itself is not mubah. So al-ayn, when you say the object itself is mubah. So if the ayn, people they use it, they get benefit of it, but the benefit to get by consuming this, drink or the alcohol, it is not permissible in the faith. Therefore, it's haram. The transaction related to it is void. طيب. من غير حاجة. طيب قال فيها نفع. You buy something that beneficial. Things that, example, ليس فيها نفع. Someone, for example, you cannot put in the market, حشرات, bugs. Will someone selling bugs? So قال فيها ليس فيها نفع. So this is not going to be object of a transaction. So nobody, if you're going to buy them, what you're going to use them for? Unless if there is something that they used, but there's the difference of opinion between the scholars. There's, for example, type of leech that they get to extract blood, So those, they might be the object of transaction, but are they lawful to sell or not? And that's the question mark. قال من غير حاجة, the example, for example, of the dog. The dog, it's not permissible to have in the house, etc. But it is permissible to use for hand, to use for guard, to use for many things. So this is have a restriction in the use of the dog, and this will not be possible than anything that has a restriction in using its benefit to be an object of a transaction, and when we say of transaction, of selling. unlike the cat it has manfa'a and it is allowed and permissible to have it. Therefore, based on these principles and condition, it is allowed to buy and sell a cat. طيب. The other one قال بيع الميتة أو الميتة, the dead animals. الميتة also it's not allowed. It has use, but it will be only permissible in a state of necessities. So you see here, permissible for a need in a particular state, as here the state of necessity. طيب. Now he's gonna give us an example, and this example truly also have difference of opinion. قال كالبغل والحمار. كالبغل. البغل is the mullet or the البغل. الحمار is the donkey. البغل is the mule, which is like coming from a mix between the horse and the donkey, the mule. طيب. قال كالبغل والحمار. So according to the author, and we need to understand the spirit of the ahkam that the author is presenting. Remember, in every faqih has his principle on which he base his laws, or he base the ahkam. There's principles, and these principles lead to difference of opinion between scholars. Okay. طيب. قال البغل, as we said, the mule, وهو أن now we have الحمار is forbidden, the horse is permissible. But when you have an animal comes from one forbidden and one that is permissible, then whatever comes from both of them is going to be forbidden. Because when you have forbidden and permissible, by way of precaution, you kind of lean more to the forbidden. Therefore, the product coming from both of them will be prohibited. And that's why he said al-baghl. واضح. However, the author, he based his analysis here on one thing, on buying the mule and the donkey for food. So when he says haram, it's haram to sell them as being served later as food, as meat. Why? Because الحمور الأهلية are forbidden, prohibited, and the mule coming has half of it coming from the donkey, therefore also is prohibited based on this base. But it is permissible to sell because it has, if we apply the same condition that the author mentioned, أن يكون فيها نفع, they have use. People, they use it for a long generation. They use it, but they don't use it for food. So based on the author, when he have his perspective on what to be used, because we already mentioned that is najas, and the najasa that we have, the najasa, the impurity of both of this animal is really touched there, related to their meat, but not related to their use. So if their use is accepted and known that everyone is used, And then this ayn is mubaha. This ayn, the use of the animal, is accepted, is permissible. Therefore, selling it is permissible. So that's the analysis that we doing, inshallah, to explain, or to give the opinion which is not going with the opinion of the author, because قال وأن تكون العين مباحة النفع من غير حاجة. Or actually he's saying that it is مباحة النفع, so it is مباحة النفع, it's possible to sell it. طيب. And he mentioned actually specifically, because here look what he said, قال وأن تكون العين مباحة النفع من غير حاجة كالبغل والحمار. So he's saying, actually he's introducing, so the author, he's saying it is permissible to sell, because the Prophet ﷺ in a hadith said, إن الله إذا حرم شيئا حرم ثمنه. When Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala prohibit anything, so its a price or its selling is haram. And the author actually, he mentioned the mule and the donkey because both of them, the meat is not halal, but its selling is halal because of the use that I have mentioned. Because there's another opinion saying that both of them will not be the object of the sale, but then looking back at the matan, and the author actually, he's the one who's supporting the opinion that it is permissible to sell, and kind of answering, explaining the hadith of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, that this is, yes, it's haram, but it is possible to sell. Why? Because they're not sold for the intention to be used and sold as meat, because their meat is prohibited, but as with the intention to be used, as for ride and for carrying and things like that. Now قال ودود القز. ودود القز. Dud al-qaz is, this worm, the silk worm. So there's worm who transform and then it produce silk. This is from where they extract the pure silk. And one of the finest silk, getting from this dud worm al-qaz. فدود القز يجوز بيعه مع أنه حشو. Why? Because it is ينتفع به. I mean, there's a use for it, and people, they get advantage and benefit from this worm as they extract the pure silk from it. قوله, and then also, so he mentioned it, what is permissible to sell, even though I mean, when someone will have them, just thinking of them, he will think that it will not be possible or permissible to sell, like al-baghl wal-himar, what dud, because the dudes, someone says selling worm for what reason? There's no nafa. Again, to remind you, as I already have said it, the condition for the object of the transaction to be permissible, to have, as we said, three things, that أن يكون فيه نفع, أن يكون مباح النفع, أن يكون نافعا بلا حاجة, or تكون الإباحة بلا حاجة. Again, the meaning of that the object of the transaction need to have a use, it need to have a benefit. So when someone buy it or get it, there's a use for it. You buy the chair to sit, you buy the table to put things on it, etc. So anything does not have use cannot be the object of a transaction. The use need to be permissible in the way of the Sharia, and need to be permissible without condition and restriction, like the dead animal. only you can use it when in state of necessity to eat, so it's haram. Cannot be an object of transaction. Then he gave example where there's kind of have a question mark to specify that, like al-baghlu wal-himaru, as we said, al-baghl wal-himar, their meat is prohibited to consume, but they are, an object of transaction and known. Why? Because of the use of the baghl and himar for other things, which is mainly the riding and carrying on them loads, etc. Wadud al-qazzi, the worm that produce silk, because of the advantage and the benefit of giving. But when you say worm, nobody will be selling worms. Actually, they sell it for people to have, like, to bites for the for fishing, so yeah, that's also, I said, there's a difference of opinion. If someone will not find them, if someone offer them, he should not be selling them. But if they are rare and people they want them, then it is permissible to sell them, because the people who are going to buy it, they're going to use them for fishing. Now go to more kind of strange قال ودود القز وبزره is this worm itself, but before it get into the stage to give the silk, before it gets to the stage to give the silk, his name again, his name Bizr. Then he said قال والفيل elephant, because in the places where there's elephant, and they use them, there's a use for it. Therefore, anything that has use, and it is permissible to use the elephant, therefore the transaction having the object to be the elephant is permissible. وسباع البهائم التي تصلح للصيد. And there's kind of animals like, wild animals. If a person can train them and use them for hunting, then it's permissible to sell. And he said, except the dog. So you can buy a lion if you can train it, but you cannot buy a dog. But you're going to explain this and see the difference of opinion in that. قال والحشرات. Let's stop by the dog, because I think it's important. Important because it's where we live. طيب. The author, rahimahullah, he said, except the dog, even though it's truly, in the sharh, if you will be able to train a lion to help, a person to hunt, or a hyena. I mean, there's people they can train hyena. Do you know that? I mean, mashallah, in some places they have friendship with hyena, and they saw a short movie about that. It was kind of mesmerizing. But the dog is prohibited. Is it prohibited, the selling of the dog, for all the scholars or not? We know that in the school of thought of the author, which is the Hanbali school, it is prohibited. But what is the source of the prohibition? Is because the dog, period, but we know the dog, it is, can be used for many beneficial things, can be used, it's permissible to use it for in many fields. Garden, protecting, as protecting the herd, protecting, for hunting. And actually Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala mentioned the dog in place like Surah Al-Ma'idah. قال من الجوارح مكلبين تعلمونهن مما علمكم الله. You teach them from what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala taught you, and فَكُلُوا مِمَّا أَمْسَكْنَا عَلَيْكُمْ, and eat from whatever they grab in for you. So if you someone will shoot, for example, a prey, and the dog, or a bird, and the dog will bring it and biting on it, and it is permissible, because when someone he shot, intending in the name of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So when the dog bring it, it is permissible to eat that animal and to use it. And here you see that the dog, it has, a use. It has a use, except to be inside the house for the reason of the Prophet ﷺ said in the hadith. Based on this, there's a hadith of the Prophet ﷺ. قال نهى عن ثمن الكلب. The Prophet, he prohibited to get the money, or to get the profit out of dogs. طيب. The author, the scholar who's say here, the permissibility, or what is permissible to use from the dog is whatever is, permissible in the field that we have mentioned. But as long as the use of it is restricted, then selling it is prohibited. Because the Prophet ﷺ قال نهى عن ثمن الكلب. You can get a dog from someone who has dogs to use it, but you cannot buy it. If it's free, you take it, you use it. And there's a lot of consideration, maybe especially in that time, that we do not know. For there's another opinion in the Maliki school, because some opinion, which is they even, everything, for example, halal to eat, except what is being mentioned in the Book of Allah. So according to the Maliki school, this animal also can be consumed. That's why he said, they can be used for food, but only on the Maliki school. But coming based on the dog, that his impurity, the impurity of the dog, as is mentioned, and I would not say the impurity of the dog, because that's not also unanimous between the scholars. The scholar, seeing the hadith of the Prophet ﷺ, he said, إذا ولغ الكلب في إناء أحدكم فاغسلوه سبعا إحداهما بالتراب أو كما قال النبي صلى الله عليه وسلم. So if the dog is using or licking, or he get his tongue into a container, you have to clean it 7 times. One of them is with the sand, or like the 8th one with the sand. There's a different narration. The question here, that does justify that the dog is impure? That's the Maliki school. They say it does not justify, because they said, how can it justify its impurity when Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said, eat from what the dog grabbed for you? So, if it grabbed any prey that someone was hunting or game, therefore the saliva, it went onto the game itself, right? So that's why the Maliki school, they said there's no impurity in the saliva of the dog, but to clean the pot or the container in which the dog had his saliva in, is that amrun ta'abbudi. That's part of worship. We do it because the Prophet told us so, but it's not a justification of the impurity. واضح? So here, to prohibit the selling the dog, and the Prophet ﷺ, the hadith of nahi an bay'ih, the scholar based on that. But for the Hanafi school, they look from different perspective, and the perspective, they said, if someone has a dog, like has a property, and the property is a wealth, and then any wealth can be object of transaction. Therefore, on the Hanafi school, they allow the transaction by the dog. Moreover, there is another scholars who, looking at the hadith, they say that hadith that we mentioned, in which the price of the dog is prohibited, or to make profit out of the dog, is being abrogated. Is being abrogated, and this is another also. So there's many opinion, and I'm giving you the most, known opinion in this issue. قال ومنهم من قال بالجواز كانت حجته نسخ الأحاديث الواردة that all the ahadith that mention concerning the dog that being abrogated, and then they come to the conclusion whatever used or can be used or can provide the benefit to you, then it is permissible to be an object of transaction, including the dog. Well, so we have difference of opinion. I'm giving you this difference of opinion especially because of what you're seeing around you, and to have also the knowledge in our among our scholar predecessors, this difference of opinion, and it help even when it comes to many of you to argue. People say, they're always asking about the dog and why the dog this and this. So it happened, for example, a few years ago when people, they're driving a cab, and people, they have dogs with them, following an opinion that they say is impure and everything. It might really cause some tension, some problem, to say, I cannot take this person because I have a dog. I say, if you are driving it, and the person who's asking you to take him, this is a contract between you and him to give him, the transportation. Therefore, if he has a dog, there's actually an opinion who will help you to know that you don't need, to clean the seat 7 times. You just can wipe it because, that is only on a container, and for the school of Maliki school is ta'abudi. So this is a way how to be flexible, in a way to help people do their business, and also to be that good ambassador of Islam. Because when you say things, you cannot have, you have a dog, but that dog is helping, for example, that person, he might be blind and he need that dog to guide him. So if decline such service, that will not be convenient nor appropriate, and especially that we have in the among the opinion of the eminent scholars, and this opinion that I mentioned in the Maliki school, and it is not like a new opinion, it's from time of Imam Malik rahimahullah ta'ala, and it's actually validated and justified by strong evidence from the book of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, as you can refer to Surah Al-Ma'idah 4 and 5. So this is concerning the dogs. And the conclusion, for all the items, as long as the object of the transaction has the 3 conditions that we have mentioned, let's say 2 conditions, the mainly is 2 conditions. The first condition is that is useful. The second condition, that the use of the object, of the item, object of the transaction, need to be halal. And then he said, قال والحشرات. الحشرات is all the insect, type of insect. It's not permissible to sell. Why? Because it does not have nafa. It does not have benefit, does not have use. قال والحشرات. الحشرات, because some people, they can bring some insect, they say this has some amazing vibe when you put it in the house. I said, insect does not have use, so it's haram to sell. So no one can bring such a thing to sell and build on it, fake marketing. طيب. طيب. and then قال والمصحف. المصحف is the Quran. So here in the author, it is forbidden to sell the Quran. But also there's detail here. There's detail. Because if you're going to print the Quran and you're going to have it on paper and you're going to have a cost and everything, selling it for what the effort in it, and then to make a profit, to reprint it and everything, it comes, as he's saying here in Sharh, it is permissible. And it's been done for a long, long generation. But here, the Mus'haf can't be the object itself of selling. I mean, you're not selling the word of Allah. You're selling the book for people to read the book of Allah. If someone is in need, you cannot hold the Mus'haf on him because he does not have money. You have to provide for this person Mus'haf because this is a message of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So we're talking about, not make a transaction or like business in the word of Allah. You are selling the Mus'haf too and printing it and things to make it like available for everyone. And then to make it available from everyone, it requires to have, business for it. So the business or the selling, it will be, concerning the distribution, that, having it to be available, etc., etc. طيب. قال هون, I read the conclusion of الشرح. قال والصحيح أنه يجوز بيع المصحف ويصح. It is allowed to sell it. وما زال عمل المسلمين عليه إلى اليوم. And the Muslims are doing that from long time up to now. And if we really now look from the other side, if you prohibit and you make non-allowed the selling of the Mus'haf, then you're not going to find Mus'haf anymore. People, they will not be printing it, the Mus'haf. So it is kind of encouraging people to have the Mus'haf, everywhere. And everybody will like buy everything. And when it comes to the Mus'haf, he said, no, we cannot buy it because it's haram. This is your Mus'haf, you understand? So think with the mafhum al-mukhalafa. Think in the opposite way. What if it was haram to sell the Mus'haf? Then we will not have Mus'haf available. But we said the hurma comes when someone is in need of a Mus'haf and someone will like refuse to give him the Mus'haf because he has to sell it, or to put in prices, exorbitant prices. That's not accepted, of course. So that's where the question mark is. In the other thing also, talking about the Mus'haf, there's in some culture, they don't say how much the price, how much the Mus'haf. They said, what is the value of the gift of the Mus'haf? So people say, look, ما هي هبته. So he said, if you want me to gift me this Mus'haf, how much? How much the gift? So even there's, respect when it comes to buying the Mus'haf. They say, don't, how much it costs. Say, how much the gift? Say, I'll gift it to you for $20. And that's actually, is allowed, before they do the gift, they say, you know, I'll gift you this. So when someone come to say, I'll gift you this, you know, I'll give you this as a gift, and he's still waiting, looking at you, it means like you have to give him money. You know that this is a tradition that they have before. I said, okay, I'll accept it as a gift. What do you want? He said, okay, I want this table. I said, that's too much for this gift. You know, so it is allowed. طيب. We'll stop here, inshallah, for this class. So we'll finish next time, starting from Al-Mayta, and Al-Mayta, the dead animals, and we'll see what will be also permissible to use from the dead animals. There's what we call Al-Munfasil wal-Muttasil. Al-Munfasil, which is fully disconnected from the dead animal, like the hair, like the skin, things like that. And then the rest will be, can we had it to be related to the dead animal, or can we, what if people, they use it, etc., etc. This will be masail that we'll be studying next time, inshallah. A few minutes and we start al-Qawa'id al-Fiqhiyya, inshallah ta'ala.